Yo, what's up everyone? My name is Andrew Warren, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about, of course, this most recent pullback that we saw for Tesla stock, and then also addressing whether we could be seeing a continued pullback with Tesla over this next week, especially as we see across the board stocks generally be seeming to go downwards. And so a lot of people are wondering, is this the beginning of another stock market crash? Is this just a temporary downturn? And so, like I said, it's not just Tesla today going down tremendously. I mean, we have NASDAQ down 3%. And keep in mind with NASDAQ and ones like VOO, for some reason I can't move VOO up to this spot right here. I have it on mobile there, but on desktop for some reason it won't show up. But like I said, for NASDAQ and VOO, it's down around 3%. And 3% is actually a lot for some of these, especially VOO, which is one that gains about an average of 10% per year. So, of course, 22.52% may seem like a lot for Tesla. But if you start thinking about the fact of ones like VOO having like an average of 10% gains per year, then it actually puts it into a little bit perspective. Whereas a lot of people are just focusing on these percentage losses and percentage gains. But what they don't realize is that Tesla is up like hundreds of percentage just over this past year, up over 600% right now, year to date. So I think people just don't understand. Like with the most recent video, I said this was a slight pullback. And so some people overreacted to that statement. And I'll say it again, this is kind of a slight pullback given the fact that Tesla has run up so much over this past month, even though we had a minus 22% drop for today. And then of course, a minus 15% drop last week and more red days. It's still up 13.52% over the past month. And I just don't think people realize the extent of how much Tesla has run up already. And so of course I started checking the comments section today before I made my video public, and it seems like there's some people that just come out of the woodworks. There's a lot of Tesla bears that just come out of the woodworks and they love to like try to rub it in your face on the red days as if I actually care about these short-term events that don't really matter in the long term. So I think people wanted me to get on and do a portfolio update and pretty much just cry about my losses for today. And I think that just surprises some people where there's just a separation of emotions when it comes to the stock market. And that's just one thing that I really have to emphasize. If you cannot separate your emotions from the stock market, then it's going to be a rough time for you, because if you can't do that, then there's possibly going to be situations where you may panic sell at a loss on a high quality stock, or someone may buy into something just because they want to get in on it and they don't want to miss out on the crazy gains, like with Tesla with this most recent run up. And so they're more focusing on the short-term aspects rather than the long-term aspects. So if I have a few key points of investing that I want to emphasize, for one thing, don't be emotional. It's going to bite you if you are emotional with the stocks in the stock market. Another thing is be able to understand and actually believe in long-term investing. It's easy for someone to say they're a long-term investor, but until they have days like this and actually see how they react to something like this, then that's kind of like one of those situations where it's easy to say up until that point. So I think a lot of people right now are either bitter because they're still holding on to Tesla and they're losing money, which of course everybody's going to be crabby on the internet when that happens. We all understand that. And then there's some people that are taking on the best possible perspective, in my opinion, which is actually looking at days like these as opportunities, taking advantage of the discounts and purchasing whatever stock they're interested in, whether it's Tesla stock or another high quality long-term stock that they believe in. So, of course, you have those different types of people. The Tesla bears especially are going to come out of the woodworks, and as an investor, you just have to stay strong and, of course, know when to ignore other people's advice. That's one of the biggest things I've learned in life. If I had listened to everything that everyone else had already said about Tesla, and even just the things that I've done in my life beforehand, before I started investing, then I wouldn't be as successful as I am. So you have to know when to ignore other people's advice, and it's important to understand some of the basic fundamentals of investing, which is to try to separate your emotions from the market and to know whether you're actually someone that is going to be able to be a long-term investor. Because like I said, it's easy to say up until you have red days like this. So just a heads up, if I don't reply to the comment sections for a while, there's a reason behind that. Just because, as we know, especially when the market is going red, the comment sections can just be totally toxic, not worth your productivity or energy. And I know there's a ton of awesome people in the comment section. Most of you all are absolutely awesome. But like I said, it's just a waste of productivity and, unnecessary negativity when you focus on those things, especially when I already have my investment strategies and I'm just completely set on what I believe in. And also, there's just so many bears coming out of the woodworks that are more focused on the short term, that don't understand that I have a long-term perspective and that days like today are not relevant to me other than the fact that it's an opportunity for me to buy. It doesn't make a difference to me unless I'm looking to pick up some shares on a discount. Essentially, my point is, and this doesn't even just apply to my channel, but I've noticed this in other people's comment sections as well, people just coming out of the woodworks and saying, I told you so, I told you Tesla was crashing. But what they fail to understand is that those investors and those content creators are just like myself. We do not care about what really happened today other than the fact that it's at a discount. It does not matter to us because our long-term investment, our long-term bet is regarding Tesla growing tremendously over these next 10 years. And so the major thing about long term is that it takes time and patience, whereas a lot of these impatient people are thinking this is the end of Tesla somehow, where it's just another pullback, and we've had such a huge run up that it just makes sense at this point. And so like I said, no matter how many times you explain your investment strategy and your perspectives, people are still going to just continue to not understand that the long-term investors don't care about what is happening to Tesla right now, other than the fact that, like I said, it is a buying opportunity. So I think that's the best possible perspective to have, of course, but you have to do your own due diligence in the company. You have to do your own research and make sure that you believe in it for yourself, because of course there's people like myself that am able to hold on to this stock when we have minus 22% in days, because I've done my research, I understand the potential with this company, and I'm confident in my predictions, whereas with other people that are just trying to follow or replicate what the Tesla bulls are doing, when you actually have days like this, that's when they get upset and that's when they end up selling the position, because they didn't do the research themselves and they didn't actually believe in the company themselves. It was just them following what someone else was doing. So this, of course, is tough love, because I'm actually trying to give some valuable information on the basics of investing. And I have to keep it real, because if people don't learn this, then it's just not going to work out well for them in terms of investing, in my opinion. And so, like I've mentioned in previous videos, this is 100% a healthy pullback. And like I said, there does seem to be a general downtrend in the stock market as well right now. So we have a combination of this pullback from the stock split, the pullback from the share offering, the pullback from S&P 500 inclusion not being announced Friday or today, and then we also have the general stock market trending downwards right now as well. So lots of uncertainty going around with Tesla stock, but this is all the perfect storm, in my opinion, for investors like myself to pick up shares on sale. So as I said in the previous video for today, I did spend my last bit of cash on the sidelines on Tesla stock at a share price of $355.50 for a fractional share of $232.64. So like I said, this $232 was all I had in my bank account, so I transferred that over to Robinhood and decided to buy a fractional share, which is about 0.654 shares. So I am practicing what I preach. I bought as much as I could for today, and then I'll likely be buying farther into this month unless we see a huge run up, and then of course I may think about waiting until after the pullback after Battery Day. But if there's not a huge run up, then I might as well just go ahead and take advantage of that when I can. And so addressing this topic of, are we going to see a bigger pullback this month, and especially after Battery Day, given the fact that, like I said, we have all of these factors in combination. S&P 500 once again wasn't announced today, and keep in mind that S&P 500 can decide to include any company at any time at their discretion. There's no set date for whether Tesla is chosen or not chosen. It's just they choose when they want to add a company, and that's just how it is. So it could happen at any time, but I think there's a lot of disappointment with it not happening today as well. And then, like I said, there is just this big combination of multiple factors with people overreacting on some recent events. Like I said, the share offering of $5 billion was a good thing, and this has now been completed. I believe September 4th was when they actually went through with it and sold the shares. So this is already done and over with. They've already sold the shares, and that could have been what triggered like this snowball effect of, you know, the share price going down, more people selling off because they don't want to lose more money, and then the cycle just repeats. But honestly, just in my opinion, if we don't see any S&P 500 inclusion announcements this week before Battery Day, then we could begin to see even more of a pullback past today, especially if the stock market continues to be red just in general. So with all of these factors together, we could actually see another pretty big pullback. And then as we start getting a little bit closer to Battery Day, there is that possibility of the stock price just rebounding a slight bit up until that date. And depending on how huge the news is, and even just depending on how people react to that news, keep in mind in the past there's been some really good news with like the Cybertruck unveiling and then also Tesla Autonomy Day, where investors actually didn't like react a lot to it and there wasn't a huge stock movement. So depending on the news and of course how people react to that news, whether it's significant or not so much significant, then we could likely be seeing another pullback afterwards, in my opinion. So like I said, after Battery Day is when it really starts to get interesting, because Battery Day is like one of the last really major Tesla events events for the year. And so we do have a few small things going on as well, of course, like the Q3 earnings and things like that. But Battery Day is like one of the biggest events of the year, if not the biggest event for Tesla. And so just from like a typical general investor's perspective, some people may decide to make a play on Battery Day, sell off the day before, sell off the day of, or sell off the day after, just because they may be expecting a pullback afterwards. And I have to admit, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a pullback after Battery Day. That's where I feel like we could see a pretty significant pullback, or at least just some stagnant movements where it's pretty much just plateaued across. But with my investment strategies, I'm just continuing as usual. When I have cash, I'm dollar cost averaging, and especially on the red days, I do try to come up with some money to invest because I like to take advantage of these opportunities. But I really do think this is a healthy pullback, and what a lot of investors just don't seem to understand at this point is that Tesla is still, in terms of like a pre-split value, it's still a little over $1,600 per share. And so yes, that is a little bit of a pullback, but it's still a notable share price in the sense that before the split announcement, it was at $13.74. So I just don't think people realize the point that Tesla is still $1,500, $1,600 per share pre-split, and that the stock market and Tesla stock doesn't always go up. And I think it's time for a lot of these new investors to learn that. It's time for a hard lesson to where either people learn and adapt to the stock market, or they learn it's not for them and they panic selling. They just learn that this isn't for them. They can't handle the losses and things like that. So it's important at this point. I think it's healthy. Of course, I would prefer a stock market crash in general not to happen, but I wouldn't like be really sad about it, because at this point it seems like a pullback is at least needed to set some of these investors straight and weed out some of the weaker investors that are just really chasing some quick money and not actually investing. And I think that is one issue that we kind of have in the stock market right now. You have people that are buying stocks, but they're being emotional with their investments and they're not actually looking from the long-term perspective, and they're investing money that they need sometime within like 5 years in the short term. And so as we know, if people are investing money that they need sometime soon, they're going to be more emotional on that money because they don't want to lose it, because they know if they lose it and they need it sometime soon, then that's going to affect their lives greatly. So you have a lot of people using money that they're going to likely need sometime in the future. You have a lot of investors investing with their emotions, and then you also have a lot of investors that are just focused on short-term quick money, which is a crucial mistake in my opinion. And so with Tesla, it's going to take patience. I've always said in previous videos, it's always about the long-term perspective with Tesla. Tesla stock is not really worth buying if you're just trying to make some quick money or some short-term gains, because that's just not the stock to do it with. And honestly, in my opinion, going for short-term gains, it may work sometimes, but it's one of those things where it's not going to work consistently in my opinion. And so that honestly leads to people losing a lot more money than they hope they would when they try to go for quick money and things like that. So I think this is very healthy for Tesla. I'm glad it's happening, because just because of the fact of it going down almost 23% in one day, it's telling me that there were a lot of investors that just weren't in it for the long term. They didn't have the conviction like they thought they did. And so this is healthy for the company in the sense that I don't want too many people getting into Tesla that don't have that long-term vision. And it's good for us investors that actually do believe in the company and are picking up these shares on sale. And so that means more shares are being transferred to long-term investors, which is a good thing in my opinion. However, just keep in mind, as this does possibly continue to be a downturn for Tesla, we will start seeing more and more bearish analysts on these news channels and things like that, just because Tesla bears and bears in general just love to come in and rub it in once in a blue moon. And so you have to know to ignore these bears if you actually believe in the company long term. Of course, none of what I have said is to be considered financial advice. This is all about how you feel about the stock personally, and do you actually have that conviction? And I do. I believe in this company long term, and that's why I'm not selling. I have no plans of selling. But anyways, I'm just telling y'all what I'm thinking about the market right now, what I'm doing, and I just wanted to share some perspective. So if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to smash that like button. It really does help me out. And also, feel free to check out Robinhood and Webull in the description below. If you sign up with my link, you'll get some free stocks, and especially with Webull right now, you can get 2 free stocks valued up to $1,400 if you use my link and deposit $100 into your account. That would definitely give you some free money for those of you that lost some today. But regardless, I just want to let you all know about that. But I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week.